Obi-Wan Kenobi followed Padmé to Mustafar, knowing she was the key to finding Anakin, and was determined to stop him before he could do any more evil. But Obi-Wan exiting Padmé's ship was the catalyst for Anakin turning on Padmé and force choking her unconscious. In this story, we're going to ponder the question, what if Obi-Wan never followed Padmé to Mustafar? Let's begin on Coruscant. Obi-Wan has just told Padmé the truth about Anakin, that he's turned on the Jedi, joined the dark side, and led the purge on the Jedi Order, even killing younglings. She can't believe it. The man she knows and loves would never do such a thing. She leaves immediately, boarding her Royal Naboo cruiser and heads for Mustafar immediately. The difference in this story is that Obi-Wan doesn't stow away on Padmé's ship, and the former queen heads there alone, with only R2 by her side. She lands her cruiser on the Mustafar platform and can see Anakin through the front windows. Padmé's nervous. She wants to reject what Obi-Wan told her, but is fearful of the truth that she will learn. Anakin's shadowed figure pulls down his hood to reveal his face, staring upon the ship with confusion. He runs towards the ship as Padmé runs out towards Anakin. We know how the conversation goes here. Padmé pleading Anakin to come back to her, that she's heard terrible things, that he's supporting Palpatine's empire, joined the dark side and killed younglings. Anakin doesn't confess or deny, but simply states that Obi-Wan is attempting to turn her against him. But Amidala rebuts this, telling Anakin that Obi-Wan cares about them and that he wants to help. Padmé hugs Anakin closer and begs him that all she wants is his love. But this is where Anakin takes a turn, as he's convinced Padmé's love won't save her, that only his new powers can. But Padmé shakes her head and tells Anakin that the cost is too great, that he's a good person and what he's doing is changing him. And she firmly states that if Anakin continues down this dark path, then she will leave him and won't be around even if she does survive. She pauses and follows on, begging Anakin for them to go to Naboo, to leave everything behind whilst they still can. But Anakin rebuts this, saying they don't have to run away anymore, that the Empire can be theirs after he defeats Palpatine, and together they can rule the galaxy. Padmé takes a step back as tears begin to well up in her eyes. She tells Anakin he's breaking her heart, that she cannot follow him down this path, and if he continues, he'll lose her forever, regardless of whether she survives or not. In this moment, Anakin hasn't fully become Darth Vader, as this doesn't happen until his loss to Kenobi. Anakin is still alive inside of him, and he considers Padmé's words. He can see the distraught upon her face as she gives him this ultimatum. In this moment, he realizes his wrongdoings. He joined the dark side to save Padmé from death, but now because of what he's become, he'd lose her regardless. He pulls Padmé close and puts his hand on her cheek and speaks to her in a softer tone than before, and tells Padmé that he's done everything for her, that he can't live without her. And Padmé tells him that if that's the case, if he truly does love her, then leave behind everything he's done, and she promises they will find another way to save her if it comes to that. She looks up into his eyes and sees love staring back at her, as tears begin to well up as she knows Anakin has returned. They hug, and Padmé tells Anakin that she's been so frightened, but Anakin promises to never make her feel that way again. Anakin has returned to the light, now free of darkness, but he has to find a new way to save Padmé. They do what Padmé recommended and take her cruiser to Naboo and land at her lake house, free of any prying eyes of the Empire. At this time, Obi-Wan is still looking for a way to find Anakin, whilst Yoda confronts Palpatine, and we know how the duel ends here. It's a stalemate, a draw between the Sith Master and Jedi Grand Master, and Yoda is forced to flee, and Organa helps him evacuate. Obi-Wan's search was futile, and he can't track down Skywalker, and contacted Organa regarding his position to come pick him up. But he then made contact with Ahsoka, far across the galaxy, as he wondered whether she'd have any insight on Anakin's location. He told her everything that Anakin had done, and Ahsoka couldn't believe it. The Anakin who she'd served under for years would never do such things. She'd only seen Anakin a couple of days prior, and everything seemed okay. But in this moment, she realizes Maul was right in his vision, and that she should have listened to him all along. Obi-Wan tells Ahsoka about Padmé knowing where he is, but that she wouldn't tell him, and Ahsoka gives Obi-Wan the idea to see if Padmé is still on Coruscant, because if she isn't, she may have gone to see Anakin. Meanwhile, Organa sent a transport to pick up Ahsoka, whilst he and Obi-Wan go to Padmé's residence, And Ahsoka was right. Padmé was no longer on the planet, and she had gone to see Anakin. Together, Ahsoka, Obi Wan, Organa, and Yoda convene on Polis Massa, where they discuss their next moves. Obi Wan was honest with them all, telling them the truth about Anakin, Padmé, and their child on the way, that the Emperor must have used this to turn Anakin to his side. Yoda thinks on this, as his conversation with Skywalker in the meditation chamber only days ago makes more sense now. Obi-Wan asks Yoda whether it's possible for a Sith to manipulate someone's mind, whether it's possible Palpatine planted these dreams inside Anakin. Yoda puts his hand on his chin and tells them the timing is awfully convenient and wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Ahsoka speaks up, saying that if that's the case, then Padmé is not in danger, and Anakin's whole reason for turning to the dark side is a lie. They think on this, and decide that they need to find Anakin, to reveal this truth to him, so they can turn him against the Emperor. But they don't know where to find him, until Ahsoka brings up the possibility. She tells them that if Padmé has gone to see Anakin, that there's a chance that she turned him back to the light side, that if she begged him to stop what he's doing, that he might have listened. But Yoda plays devil's advocate, and also says that Anakin might be too far gone, that Vader might have taken over and killed Padmé. But regardless, Obi-Wan says they need to bet on the possibility that Padmé turned him back, bet on the Anakin they know and love, and that they fled from the Emperor. Ahsoka asks the group where he could possibly go, and Kenobi tells them about the lake house on Naboo, where they went together on a mission before the Clone War, and it's likely that place has special memories for them. Padmé and Anakin arrived at the lake house earlier, Padmé reassuring Anakin that they've made the right decision, that she won't die in childbirth, but will be rewarded by a beautiful child for all they've done for the galaxy. Anakin sets up the birthing room as he gets ready for the fateful moment that he knows can be upon them at any moment. Meanwhile, Palpatine suspected that Anakin might betray him, but he believed the chances to be extremely small, especially after he'd purged the Jedi Temple and killed the younglings in cold blood. But he hasn't been answering any of his transmissions. But luckily, he sent his spies on Mustafar before him to report what Anakin was doing. They reported a conversation between him and a woman whom Palpatine knew was Padmé, and together they went off in her ship. Palpatine curses, as he knows this must mean he's lost Anakin. He should have killed Padmé when he had the chance, but he thinks there's still hope to turn Anakin back to the dark side, especially if he experiences the most pain he possibly could, watching his wife die in front of his eyes with him completely helpless. Palpatine travels to Naboo and lands in the distance. Padmé's ship was of government property, and of course he had implanted trackers inside just in case he'd need it in the future. He had decades to plan this, and of course he'd prepared for everything. Anakin and Padmé are standing on their balcony, sharing a moment similar to their first kiss all those years ago. Anakin's mind is overcome with nervousness, but Padmé's presence calms him, and he feels safe with her. But suddenly he senses a surge of darkside energy, as Palpatine rushes towards him with his lightsaber ignited. Anakin dodges, parries, and uses the Force to push him backwards, alongside the squadron of clones he's brought with him. Anakin stands beside Padmé, and realizes the situation looks dire. Anakin tells Palpatine to leave, that he no longer has anything to offer him, but the Emperor tells Anakin he has not yet completed his training, that Darth Vader is not dead, but rather has only just been born. Palpatine grips Padmé with the Force, pulls her into the air, and orders the clones to fire. Anakin gets ready to block, but is unsure whether he can defend against the entirety of the clone squadron, as the ship flies overhead carrying Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Ahsoka, who fire at the clones, destroying the squadron and stop them from shooting Padmé. The Jedi jump out and form a border around Palpatine. Anakin orders Padmé to rush inside, who does this, and he joins the Jedi encircling Palpatine. The Jedi jump and form a border around Palpatine. The Emperor realizes the seriousness of the situation. He's overstepped his boundaries, and his eagerness to get Anakin back has left him vulnerable. He's overplayed his hand, and now his life is in danger. The Jedi ignite their lightsabers, whilst Palpatine ignites two of his. The fight commences, as the Jedi attack Palpatine one by one, who flawlessly blocks the onslaught. Palpatine was a master of wielding two blades, as he knew in his conquest of the Jedi that there'd be many moments where he'd be forced to face multiple opponents at once. Palpatine goes to take out the weakest link first, Ahsoka, but Anakin puts his focus towards defending her, which never gave Palpatine the opportunity. Slowly, Palpatine's defenses weakened, and the Jedi begin to crack it, jabbing his legs and torso with shallow lightsaber stabs that slowed the Sith Lord. Ahsoka gets overzealous, going for an aggressive strike, but Palpatine capitalizes, parrying the attack and sends her flying back with a bolt of Force lightning. It was now 3-on-1, but Anakin's resolve has never been stronger. Palpatine begins taunting Anakin, telling him that if he kills him here, then Padmé's death is certain. But Obi-Wan speaks up, telling Anakin that his nightmares of Padmé were a lie, that Palpatine planted them in his head to deceive him. Palpatine snarls as a look of realization happened upon Anakin's face. This means Padmé is not in danger, and therefore neither is his child. He decides to lock in. If he can defeat Sidious here, then he gets his happy ever after. Yoda makes the initial move and cuts one of Palpatine's blades in half as Anakin kicks him to the floor. He follows up with a strike, but Palpatine casts Force lightning at him, which Anakin blocked with his blade. But Obi-Wan takes the advantage and cuts off Palpatine's hand casting the lightning, and he's left with a single hand and lightsaber. His anger grows, but so does the Jedi's onslaught, as they attack ruthlessly against Palpatine, who can no longer keep up with only a single blade. He attempts to use the Force to cast a dust storm to allow him to escape. He does this, which was initially successful in blinding the Jedi, but Anakin was attuned to his presence in the Force as he throws his lightsaber with all his might, hitting Palpatine directly between his shoulder blades and through his heart as he kills the Sith Lord. They rush over to Ahsoka, who's unconscious and alive, as Yoda, Obi-Wan and Anakin look at each other in silence, all with many things to say. But Padmé rushes out, claiming her water has broken and can feel the baby coming. They rush inside and prepare for the pregnancy. Although Anakin learned the truth of Palpatine's visions, doubt lingered in his mind. Labor begins, and Padmé's birth was successful, and the Skywalkers welcomed 2 new members into their family, Luke and Leia. After the pregnancy, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda and Ahsoka talk privately, as Anakin apologizes profusely for everything he's done, that he let himself be easily manipulated by the dark side and facilitated in the purge of the Jedi Order. He tells them all that he's willing to answer for his crimes, but Obi-Wan tells him that he can deal with this later, that right now they're just glad to have him back, that he will atone for his sins, but first they need to secure the future of the Republic. Together the Jedi head back to Coruscant with Organa and leave Anakin and Padmé on Naboo. Padmé's heart is filled with love as she and Anakin finally have the beautiful family they've always dreamed of. Meanwhile, Organa, members of the delegation of 2000, and the Jedi meet with the Senate and proclaim the death of Emperor Palpatine, that they attempted to arrest him for his crimes against the Democratic Republic, but he was killed in the process. There was outrage from some senators, but Organa had the delegation of 2000's support. He talks to the Senate how Palpatine's empire was unconstitutional, and over the coming days, all the evidence about Palpatine is released to the Senate. Documents between him and Dooku, directly taken from the Count's office on Sereno, as well as a testimony from Anakin Skywalker himself. The Senate was convinced of this, and the Empire was reverted back to the Republic, and democracy was reinstated, with an election planned for 2 weeks' time. Eventually, Senator Bail Organa would be elected to become the Chancellor of the Republic, and with the war essentially over, he could begin leading the galaxy towards galactic peace. Eventually, a trial would be held for Anakin Skywalker for his crimes against the Republic. However, he was deemed innocent in the eyes of the law, as he was simply following the orders of his Chancellor at the time. However, when he met with Yoda, Obi-Wan, and other Jedi, it was different. Obi-Wan could forgive Anakin, but Yoda could not. The Grandmaster wanted Anakin in prison, but couldn't because of his court ruling. But he ordered Anakin to never return to the Jedi Temple and banished him from the grounds. Anakin didn't completely mind this. He wanted to be on good terms with the Jedi, but understood that this could never be the case. He traveled back to Naboo, where Padmé was with their children. Padmé had left the Senate and decided to devote her new life to her family. They decided to live in the lake house permanently, surrounded by nothing but nature, as they begin to raise their children. For now, Anakin cut himself off from the Force, but knew in due time he would have to train the twins to control their power, so that they were impenetrable to the dark side and wouldn't make the same mistakes he did. They would have more children, and in time, Anakin would train them to defend the galaxy against the next galactic threat. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch what if Order 66 was activated during the Clone War. Continue to leave your comments below. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you all next time.